cooking and chores, please feel free to add on to the slides. We will call it out. And we have our next speaker here. So welcome. Before I call out the name, I just want to introduce him, Mr. Sachin Popley. He has more than a decade of experience in the software turf, advocating and coaching Agile. Today, he'll be talking about objectives and key results as business accelerator. We all are very familiar with OKRs. So I got a question. If any of you got questions like what are the superpowers of OKRs or how to integrate those in the Scrum framework? How do OKRs and epics relate to each other? I think all of these questions have always intrigued us and we all are trying to get our answers for the same. So this session will help get the answers for these questions and I'm definitely looking forward to some of the answers myself. So on to Sachin. Welcome, Sachin.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Sachin.
Cool. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, before I jump into the content, so Guntur has left us with thoughts about valuable products and how different dimensions contribute to that, along with humanizing the workplace. So I want to extend that thought to a little bit, and I'll be talking more about how valuable products can be built. And in that context, I'll be talking more on objective and key result, which is one of the thinking framework which can be useful for product management capability to use and how we can leverage it further to derive value in our products. So as far as agenda goes, I'll be talking more on what is our OKR framework, why we use it, what are like specific OKR superpowers, and most importantly, how we create OKRs in our Agile workflow. Uh, then there will be a few guidelines around how OKR can be for articulated and communicated along different product lines. And with this, the expected outcome for this session is that you guys will have a high level understanding of OKRs and you will have the ability to create initial draft of OKRs in your respective domain. So I'm going to cover this topic is much beyond 30 minutes, but I will try to touch on the basic framework and the integration piece so that we have some flow in our mind and we can use after this session we can explore more about this particular framework and how we can use it in our respective organizations. Cool. So Scrum Day, and we must be thinking on a Scrum Day, why we are talking about OKRs, what value they bring. So this is how, why we are talking about OKRs. It is being represented by two excerpts from Scrum Guide. So the first excerpt says that it is a framework. So Scrum is a framework which allows people to solve complex problems and delivering products which have highest possible values. Like Guntur also mentioned that who will be playing much role in terms of maximizing the business value. We all know it's product owner. And the second excerpt talks about how product owners, get his thoughts around maximizing the business value. So the Scrum allows us to, make evident that some strong product management techniques needs to be applied so that Scrum can support those and we can continuously improve on our product and project. In these thoughts, we might be working into an organization which have good Scrum practices established and people know Scrums in and out, but sometimes without effectively applying product management practices, Scrum will not help you to make those valuable products. It needs some sort of art which a product owner or product management capability should have so that we kind of move towards building an impact, building an outcome rather than building an output. And with the essence of product management skills blended with Scrum, it's more look like a feature factories where we work in. And these feature factories, will have more focus on building features rather than solving problems. These feature factories will have lack of focus on customer value. These feature factories may give you an environment where teams celebrate success over delivering output, not outcome. And these feature factories, have a lack of alignment with overall organization strategy. In addition, like these feature factories, success might be measured like how many features we have shipped rather than how much value we have delivered. So this particular framework that we are going to talk about today in next 25-30 minutes is a framework which allows us to move our focus from output to outcome, how Scrum can be used with few one of these like few product management skills that we can utilize in order to solve some of our challenges in terms of identifying the right value in the product. So that is why we are talking about OKRs. And if I go to my next slide, before I want to jump to the framework, some aspects around the framework, I just want to make you go through about some of the goal setting frameworks and how they have evolved over time. If you take a look at it, we started with some monetary incentives and goal setting theories in 1935. And as we move from manufacturing mindset to knowledge worker mindset, and the nature of work that we do changed over a period of time, the goal setting theories have also evolved. So if I talk about OKR, which is like more outcome driven, they are different from the previous goal setting theories in terms of generating alignment, generating transparency, uh, uh, cadence that we have, and how the goal setting is being done via top down, bottom up, or sideways. So we'll be talking about all these aspects of OKR, which is like prevalent in most of the organization who wants to have a strategic alignment in place with their mission and vision and mission. So this is how the OKR is different from other previous goal setting theories that have evolved over a period of time. With that, I am going to touch now on the elaboration of this framework. So what I'll do is I'll take each letter from this OKR acronym, which stands for Objective and Key Results. We'll try to see what it means, so that like people might have exposure to OKRs before, but for people who are attending this session and they do not have that exposure, this like simple way of understanding OKR so that they can also build their understanding on top of that. So I'll take first letter, which is O. So objectives. Objectives are simple directional bend of mind. They are simple and clear statements of what we want to achieve. So by definition, objectives are like significant. They are inspirational. They are concrete statements, action oriented, which urge an action, which wants us to move to a certain direction. This is what we meant by objective in the OKR acronym. Let's go to the second character, which is key. So key primarily is this is like few indicators which forces our focus on what is really important, what is an outcome when we strive towards making some progress towards that objective. Usually like there are 3 to 5 key results against an objective, which the framework states. But if there are too many key results against an objective, then it implies that there is some ambiguity in terms of the articulation of the objective or the way we understand the objective. So what is represented by an object? Key objective. Key is represents the focus areas which are more important, like how they are more outcome driven. And the last character in OKR is results. So results basically specifies a set of measures or matrices that evaluates the progress of outcomes towards the goal. So when we combine outcome with some measurement, it formulates key results. And when we say that we are going to measure outcomes towards the progress of an objective using some matrices or numbers, that's how the OKR stands for, which describes the complete framework as an OKR. So like I talked about that we usually have 2 to 5 key results for one objective, which is like good number to have. If we go beyond these number of key results, these number of measurements that we want to have against any objective, then we really need to think about if there is an inherent complexity that lies in the objective. Is it independent or some other constructs around that? And we'll cover those aspects in our future slides when we also go around some examples to build to concrete our understanding around this framework. So that's how like in a simpler way, if I have to repeat it, objective is what, key results are outcome, which will be measured by some matrices and numbers. And this simple framework will be used in order to define what we want to build in our product in future. Okay, so with the understanding that we have developed around objective and key results, what they stand for, I think the next thing that we can talk about is what superpowers they have, like why they are being so popular in most of the organizations as a goal setting framework, which guides us to build a valuable product. So first superpower around OKR is focus. So if I know that what I want to build in next quarter, then I will be focusing more on what matters most. And I'll be setting goals against them. I'll be working together to see how I can measure those goals. And I will not, focus anything else which is beyond my OKR. So what it entails to is it gives a power to teams or squads so that they remain focused with their priorities. And it also aligns with one of our Scrum value, which is focus. So we'll talk more about it, like how we can use this superpower in like Scrum or Kanban to ensure that the value is being maintained throughout the delivery. The second superpower is about alignment. So the OKRs are being driven by the vision and mission statement of an organization, what strategic goals are being derived from vision and mission statement, what strategic initiative an organization has. And from those strategic initiatives, the objective and key results are being derived. So in that sense, they create an alignment with the overall vision and mission. And also when we do some sort of check-in against those OKRs, which is again a new terminology when we start using OKR, that check-in creates some sort of transparency, which helps us to see, like with the alignment, how much transparent we are with our weekly check-ins. And in order to do that, we build the trust all across the organization, from top to bottom, bottom to top, and sideways. The third superpower which OKR offers is about tracking. And when I talk about tracking, it is a cadence that we set up in order to measure the progress of these objectives against the strategic initiatives and vision and alignment, which is already with the alignment that we already have in place. So that tracking creates a culture of accountability, and with a shorter cadence or a medium to large term cadence, this allows us to measure some matrices which are non-vanity metrics. It gives us a clear picture of what outcome we have generated so far and what is remaining, so that we can kind of make adjustment in terms of our objective, key results, and take appropriate action. The next superpower is stretch. So in OKR terminology, we have some some references to roof shots, moon shots objectives, which are kind of aspirational objectives. Some will be like committed objectives. So those usage of these terms and sticking to the meaning behind these terms actually provide freedom for teams to fail, and it tests their potential. So with such things in place, it is more around building like being more efficient when you are trying to work on your objectives, and take courage to be more efficient and work on even those objectives which are aspirational in nature. So these are like all superpowers which OKR offers. And with these superpowers, let's see now how these superpowers and how the objectives and key results can fit into the agile workflow. So my next slide talks about that. I want to spend some more time into this slide. This is something which is like more an implementation of OKR into agile workflow, and let's understand like how OKR fits into the overall agile workflow and how they are being tied to the value that we want to produce or maximize in our product. So this slide has two parts, like what to achieve via objective and key results, and how to achieve using like Scrum framework. So I'll start from left to right. The key thing here is every organization have a vision and mission and some strategy to achieve those vision and mission. But sometimes they are not being referred so much. They are being written. They are lying somewhere in some folder or somewhere on Boxnote, Confluence. But there is very less alignment when it comes to referring to like the reason why we exist. Are we making some progress on that in terms of producing value? So as an organization, I create vision and mission statement, and then when it floats down, when it comes to portfolio or a tribe, there are some certain strategic goals which supports the vision and mission statement of that organization. And from those strategic goals, I have some strategic initiatives which within portfolio, many initiatives are being run to achieve some goals. So when I think about initiatives, I also think about, in order to work on these initiatives, what are different objectives that my different teams want to do, and here the OKR comes into picture. So from strategic initiatives, I derive objectives. In order to measure those objectives, I define some of the key results, which are like more outcome driven, not output driven. From those objective and key results, I kind of prioritize my backlog, which is in terms of higher value to like lower value. For the key results that I have against objective, I define epics. Now I'm coming to the how part. I define epics. Different epics can be broken down into user stories. So this is how the overall alignment is there when I want to tie my mission and vision with the lower level of work that I want to do in my teams. And these objective and key results helps me to achieve that alignment, to be aspirational, to be more outcome focused, more output focused, and allow teams to be more engaged and more connected when they are doing any piece of work as a part of the user story. So this is how the OKR is being fit into the workflow. Another dimension I want to put here is about the cadence. So like how we do it. What we do is we have quarterly objectives set up for each of the squad, and we have OKRs at every level. So we have OKRs at tribe level, squad level, personal OKRs. So I'm just being specific to our squad OKRs. So when we do when we want to see like what impact we want to create in next 3 months, they are being defined by our objectives, which is our squad OKRs. And when we prepare our squad OKRs, we take guidance from, portfolio level items like drive OKRs or strategic initiatives that there are, and also have some element of bottom up formulation of OKRs, which derives innovation, and also sideways. So this is how we want do a holistic view of what is the outcome that we want to produce in the next quarter, so that I make some progress in order to achieve the vision of the organization. And when it is being spread all across the organization, then it represents a beautiful alignment. And people who are sitting at the organization level, they can also see some outcome being generated against the vision that they have set up. And it also gives an opportunity to them to reflect on how obsolete is our vision is, what is the way coming forward. And with this alignment, tracking, stretching, and being more focused is something which is driving ourselves to be a company which is not a feature factory, rather which is more thinking towards creating value in our products. So that's how the entire picture looks very simple, because it's like a hierarchy of things that happens. But when it is being implemented, it's not being implemented in a hierarchical way. Rather, it is more of a collaborative approach, and it takes time to build, and it takes time to train people on writing effective OKRs. What is an outcome versus what is an output? So these kind of things that becomes part of this overall picture. And in my next few slides, I am being more specific about few guidelines around OKR, which helps the teams and individual to understand the value and how that value is being monetized over a period of time. Okay, so now I'm going to touch base on some of the OKR guidelines, which are helpful in terms of creating good OKRs and making people shift their attention from output that they want to produce to the outcome that they want to create in order to create some impact. So first of all, I'll talk about just objectives, and we'll come to key results. So what makes a great objective? So great objectives are often very simple one sentence statement, and they just bend your mind towards certain direction. They are clear, like they communicate what we want to achieve. They are independent, and they are actionable. So some of the examples that we see, when we start having these workshops around OKRs and try to introduce the OKRs into our ecosystem, the challenges that we faced was people were more thinking around activity, and they are making that activity as an objective. So we have to define some of the examples which will create some shift in their mind, like what is an activity-based objective and what is a value-based objective. First, activity-based objective, they represent what task you want to do, what activity you want to do, which is not like very inspiring. But if you move from activity to value, then you have to apply like one certain level of why, like why we are doing it, and that give more alignment and value-driven conscious approach for people to work on those specific objectives. So these are few examples on activity-based objective and value-based objective. I'll take one or two examples and try to make you understand like what's the difference between activity-based objective and value-based objective. So let's take first example. It says that my objective is to respond to new tickets within stated SLA. That's my objective. And versus, if I think that I am responding to new tickets within stated SLA, is it like something which I'm supposed to do? Or if I'm supposed to do to minimize any customer impact by responding to high priority tickets within stated SLA. So that brought some element of value, and we can make it more valuable by applying one more now, one more why. So this is like 5 why we often use to make an activity based objective to a value based objective, and we stop ourselves at a certain level of why. Like we do not apply all 5 whys, rather we stop ourselves at one level of why, to ensure that this is an agreement with all the squads, aligns with the tribe OKRs, aligns with the strategic initiatives that we have at the tribe level. So that makes us more focused towards value, rather than focus activity based OKR to a value based OKR for our squad. Then what we do is we kind of increase the solution space of our key results that we talk about in next slides as well. So another example, which is the last one on the slide, is one activity based objective could be, I want to launch version 3 of my product. And if I have to see like what is in version 3 and what value I want to achieve, then I might convert that objective into increase reach and relevance of our product with new features. So think from a perspective that when I state my objective as increasing reach and relevance, then I would try to think of every single feature which will be a contribution in order to reach and relevance. On the other hand, when I just take an objective of successfully launching a product, my focus would be more on doing that due diligence of all release notes in place, no effective, no high priority bugs, etc., etc. And a successful launch will be a meaningful to me, which is not actually the value that we have produced. So these objectives, if we make them value based and they are representing what, outcome driven what, then it really motivates team to think more and be more stretched, aligned, focused around attaining those objectives.
That's great, Sachin. Just a time check on the question answer. Please let me know whenever you're ready to take the question answers. We have a bunch of them coming up on the Q&A window already.
Sure, I'll take just 5 more minutes and then I'll be wrapping up. The next thing is like what is a great key result? So against one of the objectives that we have, we want to measure that objective against some key results, which may be like measuring a task, which is activity, or which may be measuring a value, which is an outcome. So I'll take one example from this list, which is the last one. So if I have to measure my last objective on the previous slide, launching a new product, I might say that the key result might be same. I want to launch new version of the product in the market. But more value driven way would be, if I launch a new product, how much conversion I have achieved, like from my previous version that exists in the product, and what is the net promoter score what is the current net promoter score that I have. So these kind of value driven, outcome driven measurements makes OKR effective to use in our framework. Then there are a few guidelines around how to create good key results in different dimensions, and depends upon different key result types. So if you take a look at this slide, there are certain positive metrics, negative metrics, thresholds, or milestones that I can use depending upon the context of the objective and the outcome that I want to measure. So if I have to use a positive metric, I often use this positive metric when more is better. So if you take an example, if I say increase revenue per email sent by 10%. Similarly, when I see that less is better, then I'll draft my KR in such a way which say that reduce invoice processing time from 5 weeks to 2 weeks. Similarly, I can use target range. An example could be automated test suite to maintain defect capture rate between 70 to 80%. So whenever we cannot express it as a positive metric, negative metric, or a threshold, then we can achieve it as a milestone, like release push notification for 2-3 products. These are few guidelines that we can use in order to define our OKRs in an outcome-driven way. This is one of the examples that we can use. for the same objective which I have is win Formula One race. The weakest form of the objective would be if I have to win Formula One, what key results I have. If I say that I will increase my lap speed, I will reduce the pit stop time, versus if I move to an average pace against the same objective. And if I measure it in a more outcome driven way, which says that increase average lap speed by 2%, reduce average pit stop time by 1 second. So that sort of measurement I have creeped in, and which are like more outcome driven. And if I go to a strong way of saying this in terms of what and how I want to measure it, then my objective remains same. I want to win the Formula One race. I want to increase average lap speed by 2%, and then reduce average pit stop time by 1 second, and then reduce pit stop errors by 50%. So as I move on in my journey, I will be, in the initial phase, I might create an objective and key result, which is in weak phase. But as soon as I create OKRs every quarter, I'll become better and better in terms of what I want to achieve and how closely I want to, or how strongly I want to measure my outcomes against matrices. Okay, let's do some exercise. I'll just take the objective and we'll see what what key results we have. Are they output driven? This will be kind of clarify some of the doubts that we have in the last that we have regarding OKRs. So the objective is like, I want to become healthier in Q3 to achieve my career goals. And if I take the first key result, which says in order to attain this objective, the way I want to measure it is reduce number of sick days by 50% by end of Q3. Is it outcome driven or output driven thought? It looks more like an outcome driven, not an output. And rather against the same objective, if I am measuring it against the second key result that I have for this objective, which talks about exercise at least 5 hours a week, it looks more of a output. Like I'm doing exercise, but I'm not measuring it in terms of the impact. Similarly, for next one, it looks more of a outcome driven, because I am measuring my blood pressure level. I want to achieve that BP level of 120 to 80 by end of Q3. The second last one, more of an output in order to attain that objective. Like I cut intake of sweets and calories by 50%, but what's the outcome? And if I measure that outcome towards the progress of this goal, then it will be more appropriate way to measure. And then the last one, which talks about specific like X to Y. I want to drive BMI index from current level of 20 to 15 by end of Q3. That's how it's being measured as an outcome against this objective. Okay, so that's all I have in terms of introducing the OKR framework, building the high-level understanding, talking about how this OKR framework can be integrated in the agile workflow, and making people understand using some examples how the OKR, how a weak OKR or how strong OKR distinguish with each other. So with that, I'll stop myself. Any questions?
Yeah, Sachin, I could see a bunch of questions on the question answer window. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time remaining. So I'll just take up the first one that came through. So it is from Nitish Sharma. He's asking how the OKRs and SAFe weighted shortest job first go hand in hand.
Okay. So weighted shortest job first, I see it as a more prioritization technique, and which will be used to prioritize features within a PI. And OKR is more of creating an alignment. So the extension to this terminology is they are more towards creating an alignment with the overall organization strategy, their vision, their mission and vision. And weighted shortest job first is just a prioritization technique that we can use. If I have an objective, that objective will be translated to different features. And if I have to prioritize those objectives, then weighted shortlist job first can be utilized.
Awesome. I hope that clarifies the confusion there for Nitish. Sachin, is it okay if we take a couple more questions?
Yep, yep.
Okay, so folks, I'll take a couple more questions and then we'll break out for the networking in our networking rooms. So I'll quickly take one of the random questions where Ram Mohan Jairam asked, okay, Ash, what are the top 3 do's and don'ts, and what should be considered when they want to implement it in their organization?
Okay, so there are like a couple of things that we do. So from a do's and don'ts perspective, I think one of the things that we need to focus on is we should, when we start using OKRs, the tendency is to think more around activities, and the understanding that we build around in the organization and the understanding that individual has, it's more around activities. So from a do's perspective, we should be focused on outcomes. We should not be focused on activities. Other thing is OKRs are like, it's not something which we need to hide. We should be courageous to be transparent in terms of creating OKRs and publishing them all across, so that it gives us motivation, it gives us the ability to stretch in order to attain our objectives that we have. Third thing is, in terms of do's and don'ts is, OKRs should not be tied with our appraisal system or performance management system. They are more towards building great products, building products which defines value, and motivating people to build those great products. So OKRs should not be tied with any performance management system that we have.
Thanks a lot, Sachin. That was wonderful to hear from how they fit in and what they are actually be there by like helping the organization. I really apologize because of shortage of time. We won't be able to take up all the questions, but we'll try to see how we can get all of them answered. So thanks a lot, Sachin, for your time this morning. Now there are breakout sessions that Sanjay